This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel scum.
Boom. Check K1-2.
I'm not even on camera.
Welcome to another episode of How We Were Kind of Right and Mostly Wrong. This is Rebel Scum Podcast. I'm Brock. This is
James.
Boom.
Gotta say James, and we gotta say, hold on, I gotta move my camera back. We have to say this, Brock. Oh, my name's on my drink. We have to say this. Spoiler. We gotta right off the bat. Spoilers for Boba Fett Chapter 6. Because I'm not even gonna. I can't even. You can't talk about this episode without a spoiler.
Nope. I told my wife she can't watch this episode because it will ruin. And this episode, you're like, oh, last week that was a really good episode. No, you fool. That's what I think. I smack you. Yeah.
But the biggest Brock was the day to take off from work was today, and Max Rebo did it. Max Rebo took the day off, and he does not die.
Yeah.
The explosion.
That's crazy.
The droid drummer. The droid drummer drumming away took over for Max Rebo. So he's alive somewhere. He escaped the sail barge. He escaped the bombing of Bar. Yeah, Max Rebo is Palpatine. He is Sheevy. He is Mephisto. Let's just go straight into that one.
We've been talking about who would the big bad be in the show, and perhaps he is the Palpatine of the show, where he's like, he's always there and always aware.
It's Rez says that's his canon now.
Yeah. Wow.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, Pauline. We're gonna get into that a little bit. You can't see because of the lighting in here, but that is CB, who, we talked about him showing up for quite some time. Actually, you know what? Let's just talk a little bit. So Cad Bane obviously shows up, but Brock, I'm watching this episode, and Cobb Vanth shows up, and all of the crazy cameos that happen in this episode, and then Mando is talking to Cobb Vanth. They're sharing a drink, and Mando flies away. And while that scene's happening, I'm on the treadmill walking, and I'm thinking to myself, laughing, like, oh man, we've been talking about Cad Bane all this time. We're not going to get Cad Bane, but instead we got Ahsoka, we got Luke, we got Grogu, we got Mando, and then as I'm thinking it cuts to that wide shot, and I just start laughing my Chrome Grogu toy. I'm just dying of laughter because I'm like, we are getting that all at once, just like thrown in your face, like take it, and I did.
It's like you think, oh yeah, they've been masterful on like fitting so much into an episode to the point, like several, like I think from the episode where they show how he saves Fennec. I like that episode going forward, all of them, I was like, oh wow, this is going fast. And it's not fast. It's like they're just putting so much in, and by the time they're finished one part of the story, you're like, oh, that's the episode, right? You're like, no, more. I was like, because I watched this in parts because I was at work. So I was like, what are you like? Why are they just jettisoned Boba Fett from this show? And don't get me wrong, he's barely in this episode, but like it's much better than last. Like that was like, again, I was like, oh, but like this is a show about Boba Fett, but like,
well,
it was great.
It's the book of Boba Fett. I'm starting to realize that this show is like a book. and it's telling the story of possibly how Boba Fett came into power or how he
Mhm.
saved Tatooine, right?
Yeah.
And so we're meeting Mando is part of that, so he's like the side story for it, and it's all kind of coming together. The Luke stuff threw me off, and Luke looked good. Like he looked good.
Yeah.
That was
And then I was
Mark
like,
Hamill
what?
looked
It
great.
like by the end of his like segment of it, I was like, no, I see it now. But like I was thinking about that because like remember what the season 2 of Mandalorian they put it and were
Yeah.
amazed, but then someone on the internet went and like made it better. I was like, is this dude? Is this like his like
They did
first
hire him,
showing?
right? Lucasfilm
They
hired him.
hired him. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I hope there's like a behind the scenes like gallery or whatever, and they talk about that because I don't like they did like one episode in season 2 of Mandalorian, but like I think they
Well, they
definitely
did talk
should
about
do.
that quite a bit. I actually, no word of a lie, just watched
Mm.
that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago for the first time.
No, that yeah.
I didn't watch it when it came out, and then I forgot about it.
Mm.
And I was writing something, and I don't know why, but I felt like I was like, oh no, I haven't watched that, so I put it on and watched it.
Mm.
And yet they talk about deep fake and all these other variations of doing it, and they do talk
Okay.
about how it is scary. But the one thing that they said is, as much as that's Mark Hamill, nothing spoken in Mando season 2 was Mark Hamill's voice. That was all like computer generated vocals. So
Yeah.
I imagine that's what it was in this one as well, because his voice was like almost pitch perfect to the era. I think there's a few things where it was like, oh, I don't know, but it was here's a res, the book of many different things that happened that caused the death of Boba Fett. That's pretty good. Look, this episode started off wild. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I like watching like the intros to shows, and I watch the credits to a lot of shows, but I don't really watch recaps often because
Interesting.
I retain a lot of it, and I'm just bored. I'm like, I don't need to recap. Let's get to it. That's how I'm like. I have no time. I have no patience. If it's something that I haven't. If it's like a season recap, Brock, I will usually rewatch the season recap if like it's been like a year or whatever. But I don't watch this episode. I was compelled to watch the recap because the thing. One of the reasons why I don't watch recaps, and I think we talked about this in Mando season 2, is a lot of shows when they have those recaps, they kind of allude to what the show's going to be about that you're about to watch. So they'll throw in, it's not just a recap of the episode beforehand, it's a recap of that episode, but also, remember this that happened 6 weeks prior? That's going to put. So that's why I kind of stopped watching recaps, because they give away threads like that. I watched on this one. They totally went all in on a lot of that stuff. And I was kind of glad that I did watch it, just because it got me amped up for this episode. I was like, oh, like as soon as I saw that recap, I was like, we're in for something.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I even thought about that while watching that recap. What stood out for me was like the dialogue between the armor and Mando, where it's like, we don't do this, and like, and she says something, and he's like, that goes against everything we believe in, and I'm like, oh, I didn't really pick up on that, because then that's when they're, I think, melting the Beskar spear, and then later she gives him attitude about the helmet and all that, and he's like downtrodden because he loves being a Mandalorian, but like, I'm just like, I do like that they threw in that part where he's like, wait a second, like this is starting to not make sense. And perhaps that's just the Mando evolving as a character. Like obviously Grogu has had a huge effect on him, but he's still devoted to his creed. Like I thought that was interesting that they included that. So yeah, like, but I agree. It's like sometimes it gives away too much of what they're gonna go back in, because like if you're watching a show where like they have a couple threads going on, like perhaps you've forgotten, but
yes,
yeah. So, but yeah, like, oh, man, like when he's flying and lands on this like forest moon, I'm like, are we? Oh no, actually, the fact that it starts with Mando immediately, I'm like, he's gonna go deliver this thing. And of course, it was chainmail. Like it was exactly what we thought it was. Like, but man, like R2, like right off the bat, you're like genius.
Well, let's start. It started off with Cobb Vanth, though. Cobb Vanth.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I skipped that part.
That was like the tease at the up top.
Yeah, which I love that.
Absolutely great. We saw like a souped up version of Luke's speeder from A New Hope, where the Pikes was traveling with Spice, and you kind of see what Spice is, and you see that Cobb is not having any part of that, and that also sets up the finale of this show. That Cobb Vanth is an excellent gunslinger.
Yeah,
take out three Pikes, save one. He should have taken out that last one. He might be in better shape right now. But then, from there we get the title, though, and the title was a stranger from the desert, or from the desert a stranger comes. I love the titles of these shows; they're so westerny. But I was like, oh, so Cobb Vanth. I was like, but Cobb Vanth's not a stranger, but I guess he's a stranger to whatever. So whatever. That the title was about Cad Bane, though, which was kind of. I was like, oh, snap, that's the stranger from the desert. But anyway, so then we get to R2 on your forest moon of Endor or wherever. And starts off with R2. And I texted a friend and I said, man, R2 is Star Wars. There's just like, and it could be like our generation, my generation, like just, but there's something when I see R2, it's like, I know where I am right now. I'm watching Star Wars. There's nothing more Star Wars than R2 to me. So we get there, Brock, and you were talking about it a little bit, but where did you expect it to go in a different direction?
No, I don't know if I had an expectation. It was just sort of like, yes, like this is what we're in for, like immediately, like, and it's like being in a new world, right? Because it's like, oh, you're like, oh god, they're gonna do this, and then they're like, oh, and here's some crazy droids that are building a temple or a building or whatever, and then a bench, like it's just like, this is it. This is exactly, like, honestly, this whole season has felt like if like Ralph McQuarrie was like, then we'll do this. Like, I know they've always, like, especially Filoni has lifted a lot of ideas from his concept art. But it's just like, it's very, the show is very true to like, what would George do? And like, I thought that like the second Luke starts doing flips and running through the forest, because it's like, he doesn't run like in the prequels, right? Like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Mace don't really move the way Luke does. And I think honestly, that's just like, let's make a move like he runs in Empire, like when he's on Dagobah, how he runs through the Force. It's like, actually, this is like almost exactly that. And it felt like it when he goes up in the bamboo tree. Like that felt like Rey in Rise of the Skywalker. Like I like that. I was just like, maybe it's just a whatever, but like the way, even though we know it's not Mark Hamill, it's like they shot it and it looks like what they would shoot in the late 70s, early 80s. Like, I love that, because it's like, why wouldn't, like, he doesn't have to be super, like, this is how Luke moves, this is how he uses the Force. I'm like, so good. And like, you're right, you were saying earlier, like, it looks so good. Like, we know it's not him, but it looks so good, and you're like, this is awesome. Like, it's everything you ever dreamed of, and like, it's 40 years later, you're like, oh my gosh. So fantastic.
It's funny because people are saying how Favreau and Filoni are going to retcon the sequels, but these are leading right into what we've seen, though. No, I don't want to talk about that. These are leading beautifully into, like them or hate them, it doesn't matter. They exist. They're part of the lore. They're part of the story. And the fact that he was building the school, the temple that we see in the sequels, like, this is where we're going. Like, I think this show, like, really, and the whole Disney Plus shows, so for the Mandoverse, Filoni, Favreau, whatever verse, what it really benefits from is the fact that there are sequels, so it's a prequel, but the fact that there are the original trilogy and the prequels where it is also a sequel, and it kind of gets to do what it does what the Clone Wars did. What you love about the Clone Wars, where now it can take the sequels and it can expand on that, but also it can take what came right before it and expand on that, and now everything can be fleshed out more. And we can have a greater appreciation of everything that came before and everything behind it. And Rez just said Kathleen rehired, but we got news, Brock, coming in right now. I'm checking it. Check the board. Kathleen Kennedy's been fired.
Fired.
Finally.
This is like ahead of like how I wanted to say it, but like the second those credits rolled and it's like directed by Dave Filoni, I'm like, and it's like boom, written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I'm like, oh, and then it's like executive producer Robert Rodriguez, but he's on everyone. And then like Kathleen Kennedy just like just jabbing you. It's like you're like, I don't think it's a matter of like, do you like this series or do you not? Like that's fine. If you don't like it, that's fine. Like some people don't like certain Marvel movies, but this is Star Wars. Like this show, like it's like all out. They're like, we could just throw Grogu in here for 5 minutes. No, we're gonna have a whole storyline that almost doesn't have anything to do with Mando, and it's gonna be him and Luke, and it's gonna be amazing. Oh, and also we'll throw Ahsoka in, and she's gonna be like, I'm a friend of the family. I'm like, God! It's like that's everything.
She reminds me of. Mm-hmm. She reminds him of his father. I was gonna say that's all.
Yeah, that. But she says that though. She's like, I'm a friend of the family.
I know.
She's like, yeah. It's just like, and you don't have to ever go back to that again. It's a matter of like, there it is. It's recognized. Like, I don't know. It's sorry. Fantastic. Like, points because like I said, I was watching in shifts. It was like, I'm like, I don't know, like couldn't we just do this in season 2 of Mandalorian? But like, no, why not? Like, it's just like I'm along for the ride at this point, and it's just like they pulled all the stuff.
That's it.
Is there 8 episodes or 7?
Along for the ride. There's 7. Next week is it. It's done. So then we're out until Mando season 3. Oh, until Obi-Wan then Andor. So actually, Heidi has I Never Tell Me the Odd that we're going to talk about during that segment of the show. But right now, we're diving into what we just watched this morning. People wake, this is the one where people stayed up till 3 a.m., woke up at 3 a.m. I'm like, I applaud you because this is one that was definitely exciting. This was one that you can't talk about without spoiling. And I try not to spoil on Twitter. I do, Brock, I do a top 5 on the Rebel Scum account every Monday from the episode before. I wait till Monday, and I said no spoilers, and people were saying that pictures, and I saw pictures from this episode were being spoiled all over the place by like 12 p.m. Eastern time. Like 12 p.m. Eastern. Ahsoka was there, Luke was there, pictures all over. Wasn't really my thing. Because I don't like spoiling, but obviously on the show we do, but we're talking about it and we warn people ahead of time about it. But next week, man, when Plo Koon shows up, still no Hondo, waiting for Hondo to get there.
It's just gotta be a matter of time.
Well, let's stick with. No, definitely. So we get in there. We got Ahsoka kind of does her shtick with Mando. Mando then takes off. He heads out. And we have the training, and in that training with Grogu, Brock is one of the moment that I think we've all been dying for since we found out that there was a 50-year-old Force sensitive out there. Yeah, and that is the Jedi Temple flashback, Revenge of the Sith, Order 66, clone troopers punching down the wall, taking out Jedi. Do we know which Jedi were killed? I
don't know. Yeah,
because they linger on that lightsaber, right? And I don't know whose that is, but they linger on a lightsaber. Somebody's got to know whose that is. But then you see Grogu there, and then it was Brock. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Very reminiscent of season 1 of The Mandalorian, when the Mando is a foundling, and he's in like that cave, and then the roof or the hood or whatever opens up, and a droid is there, and that's kind of how this one ended, with the clone trooper approaching baby Grogu, and we don't know the aftermath of that at all.
Wouldn't like it be crazy if we see a new version of that at some point, or an extended version of that? One of the clones takes off the helmet and it's Jango Fett's face, right? And then at some point in maybe Mando season 3, Grogu meets Boba and freaks out because it's like, oh my god! And like I love that because like it's like almost mirroring Mando's experience, but then like flipping it on its head. That'd be crazy. But yeah, that was great. And I was like, we were talking about how maybe we'll see some clones in this, like, or like flashbacks to some clones, and like we got it, but it's not like I thought. Like it would be somehow young Boba interacting with clones or something like that, and not the case. But like this is fantastic. Like, I mean, you don't want to see them just shooting Jedi, but like it's like, oh man.
I gotta bring this point up by Vermont Mike Pauling. Maybe when Mando takes off with Grogu, Han drops young Ben Solo off.
Could be.
You never know. Girls with Sabers have. I don't know if anyone knows this, but they really like Ben Solo, and they have discovered that Ben Solo's theme is actually in one of the Grogu scenes in this episode. You can
interesting.
Ben Solo's theme. I gotta say something right off the bat. I'm not a music guy by any means. As you know, I'm tone deaf. I think everything sounds great. I have an album from the band Lit from 1999. Like I don't have good taste in music. By the way, Semi-Charmed Life, 25 years old this year. But anyway, I don't have good taste in music. But I was watching this episode, and the music was incredible in that it took themes from every avenue of Star Wars and put them all in seamlessly and effortlessly. Like you got the Ben Solo theme obviously is in there, but you got the Mando theme. You have Pauline, we also love the Girls with Sabers. We had the theme from the original trilogy kind of come in and play out, and Boba's theme, which I think the music on the show has been great as a whole, but this episode, just the way it took all of the different themes that we are familiar with, even, and interwoven it with the new stuff. It felt epic.
Yeah, like I rewatched the last episode with Reham, and she picked up immediately, or we watched the last 3 episodes kind of together, and she picked up immediately where they use that Mando sting to point out like this is what's happened from this is Fennec getting shot, and then later obviously when he appears you get it right away, or no, sorry, at the end of the episode you hear that music play, right? She picked up on that right away. Like it is genius how it's like we can give this episode a vibe, but then we can also communicate through. I know that's what music does generally, but like specific messages of like, this is Ben Solo's. You're like, if you know the tune, you're like, that's fantastic. So it's like, just like hitting like every cylinder on this. Like, it's crazy. And like, we kind of skipped over it. You mentioned it, but I didn't really comment. Like Tim Oliphant is killing it in this show. It's like, he's on the screen at the beginning and you're like, yeah, like it's so much is said, like, and you're just like, that part is what works into like the Boba Fett story where it's like, no, like the Pikes aren't allowed here. This is not, you're not like, we run this part. You don't do your business here. Here's your warning. Don't take it. Okay, here's your second warning, and I'm gonna take something from you. Like that was so cool. Like he's so good at being cowboy. It's like, I mean, he had 2 shows about it, but like
he's also great in Scream 2.
Of course. But yeah, like I can't we've talked about this over and over again. I can't believe Cad Bane is in live action now and looks like real good. Is it the same voice? It sounded a little different.
Yeah. Yep. By the way, our friend Sheldon just sent me a text and he said he's listening to us right now. He won't comment, but he's listening. He says he's still stunned.
Yeah.
He's still the episode. That's like the vibe on Twitter too. I mean, I know there's whatever, but it's like people are just like, and I gotta watch it again. I've actually, to be honest, I've watched episode 1 twice because I watched it with Aaron. That's the only one I've watched multiple times, and this episode I watched twice as well. And I was like, ooh, that was it was great. Timothy Olyphant is a great actor though, because he's in Scream 2. No other.
But like it's just
Jerry O'Connell, huh?
He's like, it's funny because like he's wearing basically the same clothes except minus the Boba Fett armor, and he looks skinny, and he's got that like massive like kerchief. It's like, still looks cool. Like it's just like they just really have been playing up the whole like gunslinger look, especially in this episode. But like, oh man, it's like they have laser guns, but it's still like, like.
I know, it's awesome. But if you watch the Cad Bane episode of Bad Batch, when he shows up on the Bad Batch, the showdown shot with Hunter and Cad Bane is like the distance and the framing is so similar to what we saw today. It was great. I gotta say that was it was kind of suspenseful watching it the first time because I was like, Cad Bane's not gonna die. Yeah, it's like they could off. I didn't care about Deputy Dude, but like they could off Cobb Vanth easy. Like you can off him, no problem at all. No one will cry. I mean, people will cry, but you can off him. So I wasn't really sure where they were going. It's pretty clear he survived it, and I think he was left. He survived it on purpose. I think Cad Bane let him live.
Yeah,
he shot him to save his own hide, and then he took out the deputy sheriff. Like he took him out. He's like, bow, 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 bow. There's no question about that. And Dale says, yes, it's the same voice. It is the same voice for Cad Bane. Cad Bane. I love the reveal how his head was down, just saw his mouth, and I'm really excited to see this episode and to hear. From people who don't know who he is. I'm really curious how he's
exactly what I was thinking. Like, I already told myself when I watched this with Breham because she says she wants to watch it tonight. Like, I'm not going to be like, wow, because like she has no idea who it is. But I think like he's going to be interesting because like visually he looks just amazing, and like his introduction is like, boom, like,
and he's a threat. He's a clear threat. It doesn't. You don't need to. You don't need to know who he is to know that he's a threat in this episode. But I was talking to my sister who watches these shows on Fridays, which, by the way, I did tweet out. I prefer the Friday release date for the shows. It's nice to have it going into the weekend. You get to watch it. Blah, blah, but anyway, whatever. Who cares? She watches it on the Fridays, and I'm like, and I almost said something. I was like, she's not going to care. She's never seen the Clone Wars, right? Like, she's not gonna care about that. But I'm curious to see what people who haven't seen it think of this character. Because I thought he was, I mean, kind of on the same level. I mean, it's kind of like Black Chrysanthemum, right? Like same type of like, just obviously a little bit more threatening. I think Cad Bane was, well, a different type of threatening. Whereas Chrysanthemum's like he's gonna rip your arms off. Cad Bane, you're like, oh, he's just like Clint Eastwood, like, well, he's just gonna shoot you, kind of guy. So I'm very curious about that. Can't wait.
Yeah, like it's just. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
Yeah, it's. I think this is what we've been clamoring for since we started this podcast. Like, we just like show us more aliens and put them at the forefront, like with Black Chrysanthemum and now Cad Bane. Like, it's just like it looks good. Like, it's not just like no, it looks good. Like, it's crazy. Like. I have no idea what's going to happen next. And like, it's the whole scene with the bar getting blown up. It's just like, that's the first shot of the war right there. Like that is like, cause it's like, who are they going against? Like, yeah, she talks to Mando, but she doesn't really like side with him, I guess. Like, so it's just like,
well, it's his territory. I think, you know what? I
oh,
think
I see,
actually the beginning of this, I think Mando going to talk to the Pike and saying the spiel that he gave, right? Looking for the mayor, getting nothing. But I think the catalyst of it all was Cobb Vanth. Unknowingly, Cobb Vanth taking that spike. I think he put this over the top unknowingly doing it, because he does it. And when Cad Bane shows up, he says, "Oh, don't side with Boba Fett." But he hasn't sided. He doesn't even know what's going on, really. He just knows that Mando asked for some help. Boba Fett's not even in the equation for Cobb Vanth at this point. So I think he kind of escalated this even further than it needed to go, because there's a point being made about don't run spice. He says don't run spice. And now they're like, there's too much of this happening. The Syndicate's going to come in. We're going to wipe all of you out because Tatooine is what we need to run spice.
Yeah. It's like, what's that event that started World War II? It's like the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, Duke Ferdinand, whatever. Like, it's like, because this happened, all the dominoes happened. Like, that was crazy. I'm a little bummed out that Jennifer Beals' character is possibly dead. So it's like,
oh, she's gone. She was at the front. She was at the
yeah. She was there. So, but like, she was interesting. Like, she's a good side character. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's why you take her out, right? Like, you take out you compare it to Quill in season 1 of Mando. I mean, a very different thing, but you have to take someone out for the threat to be real, and that's what they've done here. And it's very, people are like, why would they take out the because this is warfare now. And I think honestly, the Cobb Vanth with the Pikes at the beginning, I think that escalated this even further than it was going to go quicker than it was going to go. It was always going to get there, but that put them over the top. And I love that, because like you said, with World War II, this is how it happens. It's
like straight up like mafia move, right? Like they go in, they put the thing down and blew it. Archduke Ferdinand. I was like, is it Franz Ferdinand or is that just the band?
But this show is Godfather 2, right? This is Godfather 2 the whole time. We've been watching Corleone work his way up.
Yeah.
De Niro in the past, and then Pacino in the present. We've been watching that as it's been playing out. So it's been such a joy to watch, and I hope we get a season 2. I always was like, oh, we're going to get season 2, but the way it's been going now, where they've kind of spun off with the Mando, maybe we don't get season 2. I'm also okay if they just like call this Star Wars, and one month we're watching this show with Boba Fett, the next month we're watching Ahsoka, and they just say it's Star Wars, go watch it, and it doesn't matter, because they did say these were all going to connect. I didn't see it connecting the way it connected. I thought it was going to be like Avengers style, where they're going to all separate and then at the end all get together. Yeah, but I love that they just kind of show up in each other's shows. Why not? It's Star Wars. It's a galaxy. You take place in the same time period. Do it. And Brock, there are people that complain that the galaxy is too small, but I think the argument I have against that is this is a genuine argument that I have, and that is, if you're watching Star Wars, you're watching Star Wars. And we've brought this up so many times. You can watch Valerian or you can watch Star Wars. One is one is the other. What makes Star Wars Star Wars? What separates it from the rest? And I just saw an article today on The Verge or The Verve or Vergio or one of those stupid websites, and they're saying Star Wars has a Luke Skywalker.
I was waiting for you to stop talking, because I was going to say that exact example.
Okay, you go then. I'll stop talking. You go.
Oh no, it's you. I think you were hitting the nail on the head. It's just like, oh, now it's like a month ago it was like Star Wars has a Tatooine issue. I'm like, what? Like, okay, you can get bored of Tatooine. I can understand that, but it's like it has a Luke Skywalker issue. I'm like, I mean, yeah, they keep dropping him in, but that's like, how many episodes of Mandalorian are there? 20, 18, and then there's 7 of these, or 6, or will be 7 of these. Like, he's in 2. Like,
And no,
he's a main character from the original saga. Like
he is arguably he's the face of Star Wars. He is Star Wars,
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
love the stories that don't. You know what I was realizing, and I think we've talked about this on a podcast like 5 years ago, is we said something like Star Wars is here, and to get to these stories, you have to get there. And what this is doing is it's getting us to those stories. So right now we have to connect with the Star Wars that we know, which is originals, prequels, sequels. You have to stay there, and then you branch out. And now, because Mandalorian sure was in Clone Wars, was in Rebels, but that doesn't count. No offense, but it's the live action that counts. So now we have that. So we're going to keep branching out, and eventually you won't need Luke Skywalker. You might not need Tatooine. You might not need it, but for now, for them to set the stage to get further away from what you know and love, you have to stick with what you know and love. Otherwise, it's not Star Wars. It's Valerian.
Yeah, it's like like they tried some new stuff with the movies, like the sequels and the Star Wars stories. They tried stuff, and like it was a mixed bag. Like not like the movies were fine. But how to appease the fans was just a mixed bag of like, we tried this. No, I don't like it. Do this. It was like, okay, we'll do this. It's like, no, I don't like it. So it's like they took Mando and they're like, okay, like it's not a movie. We're just putting on a thing and hopefully it'll launch our streaming thing. And we're just going to take it slow. We're going to try something new that it doesn't really seem to directly attach. It just exists. And we're just going to take it slow. And it's like every episode, there's a little bit of story movement, but it's like, here's a character without like a Skywalker or a lightsaber. Like, what do you think? And like people were like, yeah, I like this. And then season 2, they tried a few more things. They added all these extra characters. And now Boba Fett, it's like they're like going hog wild. So it's like as much as they want to bring in people to do their own message, like it didn't work. So like if you're not happy with them trying to appease, like get out of here. Like it's solid. It's solid. Like you don't, like I said before, you don't have to like this episode, but like it was pretty crazy. Like it's kind of what we've like I would say this season has been like, hey, remember when you pretended about Star Wars when you were a kid? Like it's exactly what it's great.
And exactly what you're saying is people had a problem with the first few episodes of the show because Boba Fett was, not the Boba Fett that they envisioned. Boba Fett apparently is as badass, but he gets killed by a temporary blind man by accident, and fine, he's cool and all, but people grow, and I think this show, I really, really loved what they were doing with the show, but people had problems with it, and like you said, you try something different, people don't like it. And then this show had the foresight, and they're like, people aren't going to be on board with this. Bring in the Mando. They went right there, and they're like, you know what? People might not even want that. Bring in Grogu, because Grogu sells. And when he was on that rock, and he jumped and did a flip and then fell asleep, I was like,
yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. Like that scene, those scenes with Luke and Grogu is like one is a complete either like a puppet or completely CG, and the other one is some dude that you'll never see his actual face. I wonder if it's that same guy from season 2 that was also one X-Wing pilot. Like so I tried to look.
You would think that's why they got him to do that, and then they had him do. You would think. I don't know though.
Yeah,
I did read somewhere that someone said they couldn't find his name in the credits. I did.
No, his name wasn't. I just double checked it. That's the bummer too. It's like, unless you know all the names of these people, it's like, because it's like, I would assume whoever Cad Bane the voice was, or the body. I think if you're a body, like a double, like just there, you don't get a credit, which is weird, but whatever. But yeah, because I had to figure that out through IMDb. So yeah, it was. It's just like there's so many, like it's not even a matter I'm gonna rewatch it because my wife wants to watch it. Like I want to rewatch this because it's just like this was fantastic. Like it's like even though they're in the desert, like everything was like vibrant. Well, I guess they were in a jungle for a large part too. It was like it was vibrant and it looked good, and it was just like whoa. So I don't know. It bums me out that there's only one more episode.
It always bums me out when the ending to Star Wars is on its way. Just reading the chat. What? Okay, so we go in. We have Luke, Grogu, Mando goes back, goes talks to Boba Fett. Finally shows up for the first time in what feels like an eternity. We got Boba Fett taking on Fennec Shan, doing all the talking. She is the ringleader. We got the Mod Squad returns for it. Love the Mod Squad. Can't wait to. Hopefully they do something next week. They're probably just gonna blow up. I'm surprised they didn't send them to the bar. Reshoots. Nobody likes them. Send them to the bar. I love Cyborg, so I'm all in on the Mod Squad. And then Mando goes to see Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane shows up, takes out the deputy. The bartender. Okay, we got to talk about the bartender, bro. We got to talk right about the bartender. Because bartender was like, we're Freedom Town or Freetown.
Yeah,
we're
Freetown, yeah.
We don't do that. Freetown, we don't do that no more. We're not going to help on your war. And he leaves. But when Cobb Vanth gets shot and is down, he's watching from the doorway.
Yeah.
And he also listens from the bar when Mando's talking. And he's really against it. But then he sees what happens. And he goes right to Cobb Vanth, and he's right there. And he stands up, and they give him a close-up, and he looks off. Do you think he is going to have a change of heart, and he's going to be the voice of reason to lead the Freedom Town to be the freedom fighters that Tatooine needs against the Pikes?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think the people of Freetown are going to be the dark horse, like the last, like when stuff gets real in the next episode, they're gonna come and save the day. And it's like the because like that is kind of what's happening in this entire series, where it's like Boba Fett isn't trying to take the power because he thinks he deserves it. He's like, this is madness. This is a cyclical where everyone is suffering and nobody wants to take control of this planet. So if you only understand force, then we'll take it and we'll run this properly. Like it works in so many things. Like he was left for dead by Jabba, and basically, or like I guess it's kind of, I get it. Like he fell into the Sarlacc pit and no one came to save him. But like that's his, like, no, it's like enough of this. Like it's just endless violence. And then like the storyline of the mods where they're like they have to steal water because they can't buy it because there's no work. Because if you don't work for one of the gang, whatever, or it's like there's a whole injustice. And then Freetown is like, no. So it's like it's gonna be crazy. I don't know if Cobb Vanth's gonna be ready to be like gunslinging next episode, but like this is it. Like it's great. I'm psyched. It's yeah. I'm curious. Like I guess if season 2, if we continue the storyline, if the Pikes are vanquished next episode or whatever, and the storyline of Mando doesn't need to come into this. I can fully see it like it's the storyline is just establishing order on Tatooine, you know. So like, are the other the people he had the dinner with are like, hey, don't mess with this, and as long as you don't help the Pikes, we're good. Like, is he gonna unite them, or are they gonna? Is the next step that I don't know? It's like it's crazy. It's like I don't know what's gonna happen next week. I have zero idea. And it's gonna be awesome. I assume a showdown.
I gotta read this. I gotta read you this text from Andrew Fantasia, who hates Star Wars and is not.
Yeah, he's the worst.
But I've never seen. Well, I've seen the first season of Game of Thrones like 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was. But I'm going to ask you, this is what he says he thinks of Book of Boba Fett right now. I feel like Book of Boba Fett is bringing us closer to a place that's more similar to Game of Thrones. What I mean by that is a show with dozens of characters we're following, and each episode is kind of a grab bag in regards to which ones will show up.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Not bad. But it's like, when I think Game of Thrones, I don't necessarily think of that as like that's what defines. It is like in the books, like that's how it works, where it's like a chapter is someone's viewpoint, and you go from person to person to person.
I just want to say, sorry, Heidi and Rez. Oh no, from Heidi, and oh no, Andrew. Sorry,
I don't know, but like I think he's right to an extent, like where it's like the audience now is savvy enough to like, you can throw a dozen characters every couple episodes at us and we'll get it. If we don't get it, we'll stop watching and you'll end the show. Like, yeah, like I can see that. Like, whether you like Game of Thrones or not, it was one of the first shows in a long time where people were actually waiting for the next episode and like we're home to watch that episode. In a world of streaming, people were like, I have to be home at this time to watch. It's like the first time I had done it in 10 years. So yeah, I don't know. It's we're a Star Wars podcast, so like we're excited about pretty much anything Star Wars. So it's like I do get like I know you see articles where like, oh, Marvel and Star Wars and whatever, those movies are like ruining cinema. I'm like, sure, but like it's just so engrossing. It's like I understand when it dominates like this, it is frustrating because it's like, well, what about a chance for the other people? I don't know. Like, I love it.
Well,
like,
yeah. The other half of that is make something engaging and worthwhile, and people will go. I think. And the problem is Netflix and mostly Netflix. They buy everything. Apple Plus is buying up these movies. Netflix is buying them up, so they're not going to the theater. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Don't hate Marvel and Star Wars and DC because they're. I love when DC gets wrapped into it because they haven't really had a hit. But like, don't blame them because they're like Disney is allowing them to go into the theater and take all the money.
I mean, you said it. I don't know if you said this in the last episode, but you said it to me through text. It's like Boba Fett and Peacemaker. I've caught up on Peacemaker. Wow. I haven't watched Lost in Space, but it's like it's solid television where it's not just engrossing storyline. It's like this is something you've kind of either dreamed of or never seen before, and you're like, wow.
An interview with one of the producers. I can't remember which one from Peacemaker because they were talking about it, and they were talking about TV versus this. And he's like the producer. It's funny because somebody was like they preferred movies because it was 2 hours and that's like you're in, you're out. Boom, boom, touch. But he said the thing with TV that's cool is like you get to spend the time and create the character and have the character grow and whatnot, which is what they talked to John Cena a lot about, how Peacemaker's kind of grown as a character, which in the Suicide Squad, you don't get that because he's whatever. But what he said, though, was the one thing that really they benefit from is that with streaming, it's not 22 minutes. It's not 45 minutes. It's how long do you want these episodes to be? And that's it. Like you see this with the Book of Boba Fett. This week was 47 minutes. Last week was like 50. One of them was like 31 minutes. They're as long as they need to be.
Yeah.
And as short as they need to be. They don't have to, it's like, oh man, we got to add in a scene here so we can get to that commercial break. They don't have to worry about that. And I think you're really seeing that with TV where, a lot of times I think you can argue that they don't look as good as a lot of movies. Some of them do, but not everything looks as good as the movies do. But the takeaway is you're getting it every week. And they're doing a really good job of, and HBO's the same though. HBO doesn't have commercials, so the episode of Sopranos would be 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 61 minutes. It doesn't matter what it is, they can throw it in there, and that's how streaming is changing the game even more on that because they don't have to worry about the top or the bottom of an hour.
Yeah, like yeah, it is truly wild. Like 47 minutes. But yeah,
it's 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say last week everybody said Bryce Dallas Howard needs a Star Wars movie. This week everyone was saying Dave Filoni needs a Star Wars movie. Yeah. It makes me. I thought Bryce Dallas Howard did a phenomenal job, and if they gave her a Star Wars movie, I'd be all in on it. Dave Filoni, same thing. But the name that everybody seems to be ignoring is Jon Favreau when it comes to this. He has written all of these episodes. He has plotted out this season with Filoni, with Rodriguez. He's plotted it out. TV shows, unlike movies, it's the showrunner, it's the producer who really has the most influence on these. And the directors basically come in and they bring that person's vision to life and they see to it. And I think the one thing obviously Bryce Dallas Howard and Filoni have done, and they've proven it with the Mando, is they work very well with Jon Favreau in telling these stories. And I think these last two episodes, I think this last episode really utilized the volume. The last episode I thought really utilized the volume. I love that they're pushing the limits of what they can do, and sometimes it's a little off kilter with what they do, but you're like, oh, they're going for it. They're just, it's not just like a pan, it's like a one-off, it's a one shot. They're going for it. They're really pushing the limits, and it makes you excited for theatrical releases like Thor and whatever else is being shot on this thing, because you're like, well, if Mando has a small budget like this, a big budget Marvel movie, what can they do with that technology?
Yeah, like, yeah, you raise a really good point. I completely forgot that they have the volume. Like, that stuff just looks so real that I'm like, yeah, that's real. They're in a forest. Like, I'm sure, like, the daytime desert, that's actually in a desert. But, like, I completely forget about that. Like it looks so good that, yeah. Wow, like, crazy. One thing we have not talked about, though, Luke's like, do you want to go with the Mandalorian or do you want to go with me? And I'm like,
okay.
I'm like, he's right, but like, yeah.
Well, you know he's gonna go with Mando, otherwise.
Yeah, which is a bummer. Like,
well, unless he dies. Here's the thing, though. That is the most, and I saw I forgot his name up here. Ron. This makes him resent the sequels even more. However, I don't know if Ron's still watching or not, but I gotta say, this goes right into the sequels. This is stupid. What Luke is proposing to Grogu is so, first of all, it's un-Jedi. Jedis don't deal in absolutes. Secondly, this is like the path he can't follow. He's showing the cracks. Like, Luke is already showing the cracks in the Jedi Order and in his own whatever, his own thinking about it.
Yeah.
So we're getting to that Luke in the sequels, like it or not. That's where he ends up. And this is, as much as he's awesome now and we love it now, that to me was like, ooh, that's wrong. That's wrong in so many, but it's wrong because he's going to make wrong choices that are going to get him there. Yeah.
I still want to see the building of this Jedi school and the rise and fall of House Skywalker. Even though we kind of know what happens, but like, yeah, I was just sort of like, oh, this is so cool. Like, it's just cool seeing like Jedi. Let's call him Jedi Master Luke. Like, we didn't get to see that. We really didn't. We got, I'm a Jedi like my father, and then we got, here's a lightsaber, I throw it over my shoulder. Like that. We want that. Like, it's just like, I think I've mentioned this. Like, it's in comics. Like, I think the Knights of Ren, the Kylo Ren miniseries. Like, you see, like, young or like middle-aged Luke going on a mission of some sort. You're like, oh man, this is awesome.
This looks like it leads right into Battlefront 2 as well, where he meets up with the character in that one when you're playing it. They're gonna get there. I think now, though, with this technology, is like, maybe we do get a young Luke TV show where we see it. And wouldn't it be cool if he lost more than just Ben Solo to the dark side or to something else? Like, maybe that was like, he's lost another student, and maybe he has to kill a student. And because of that, when this goes down with Ben, that kind of, maybe there's more to the story. There is. Who knows? They can fill in the gap all they want. I can't wait for it. Heidi just says, I hope Grogu chooses the chainmail. Otherwise, the spear was That's pretty funny.
It's like, I hate what if?
That's a big one.
It's just a bummer because it's like, it's like, choose your own adventure. It's like, do you want to go this way or this way? And you're like, I want to go both ways. I love that too. It's like, oh, and then all the references to Yoda. We didn't even talk about that either. I was just like, oh,
And he's spoken riddles. He said he's spoken riddles. Do you know anyone that's spoken riddles? So Luke is like, where are you? Like, Luke thinks he's from the planet of Yoda.
Yeah.
I'm calling it planet of Yoda. But he doesn't even know where he's from. He just knows he was at the Jedi. What a great scene, by the way.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, it's like, you want to go with Mando because Mando's awesome, right? Mando is the new Boba Fett, even though there's a Boba Fett. But then you also like, if we go with Luke, we're going to learn so much more about the Force. Like, I know, like, we've seen a lot of the Force with the prequels, specifically in Clone Wars. It's just like, something about Grogu and the Force is different. It's like, especially because like they're basically, I mean, you could communicate with him without him talking, but like I feel like Ahsoka and Luke are having a conversation with Grogu through the Force that we can't see exact, and I'm like, I need to see more of that. But
yeah, you've been on that train for a while. Like,
it's like there's got to be maybe it's nothing, I don't know, but like obviously, like he's gonna go with Mando. I just, it's this is interesting because like this is the Jedi and the Force that we're used to, but like there's a lot about this. Sorry to always bring it up. High Republic, like they talk a lot about attachment. So it's like, it's interesting, the dichotomy, because it's like a lot is lost because the Jedi are taken away. And then like one of the failings is that the Jedi are too staunch on their rules. It's like the High Republic is a little further away from that, but you're seeing it as like they're starting to understand why it's like, yeah, that's interesting. It's like, there's no one to say, yeah, like attachment and, obsession can bring you to the dark side, but there needs to be a balance, like in the Force. It's wild. Like, it's a concept that George Lucas stole from something 40 years ago that it's still like, it's wild how engaging it still is. Cause it's just like, you just, the concept is easy to understand, but like, you just like, it's like faith, right? It's the Force is faith, right? It's like, here's this thing, it's kind of cool, and there's a little bit like, maybe it's a little magical, it's a spiritual. It's like, oh, that's really, really cool. It was like, but when you go deep into it, it's like, oh, I don't want to get too religious in this, but like, yeah, like I'm just bummed because we have one more episode and then we have to wait, which like I'm sure Obi-Wan's gonna be fantastic, or whichever one it is next, but it's like, you could have made 15 episodes. You could have. They could have done what Walking Dead did, where they would like the first half of the season is one storyline, the second half, but it would have been good. Like,
Pauline brings up Yoda's lightsaber.
Yes,
Luke has Yoda's lightsaber. How did he get that? I don't know. Who cares? It's just awesome.
That's the thing. Eh? Like that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, how'd he get it? Like, it's like, it doesn't matter. If he knew where he lived, he probably left it in the shack and he went back there.
Yeah. And Mr. Rez says next week is Rancor week.
Will that be worth it? Because like we've only seen the Rancor for one scene and then his claws in another. Like, is it going to be worth it? You know what I mean? Like, is there?
Yes.
Is it like, I don't know.
It's a Rancor.
I know, but like, you're putting, like, your plan is like, we'll just release the Rancor. Like, we're expecting him to be riding that Rancor, but we're like, does he make a relationship with the Rancor? Like, that's what, we kind of want to see it. We need a Rancor training montage. You're gonna want it.
I get it. Look, I think what's gonna happen is at some point they're gonna be like, he's like, bring out my friend, and he's gonna get on that Rancor, and they're just gonna go down the streets of Mos Espa going like this. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to dig and water is going to come. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be great. You want to go to the odds?
Let's do it.
The probability of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Ever.
Never
tell me the odds.
Never ever tell me the odds. Brought to you and there it is again by patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast. We have a podcast. Why don't you support us? We try our best. We scream at our cameras into our microphones every week because we love Star Wars all the time. So be one of the wonderful people that comes and support us. Because if you support us, we'll give you some stuff. I don't know. James does all the things. So there's always good stuff. We'll send you an 8x10 picture of Andrew Fantasia. I'm sorry. Oh, look. That's that. Everyone stopped supporting us. Anyways, but these people have been with us from day one of patreon.com. Their wonderful names are Heidi Feder, executive producer, Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Randy Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Jeff Wilson, Phil Stanifor, Scott D, Josh Price, Matt W.
Rez is in the chat. Hi, Rez.
Hi.
Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, D. Raven, Spencer, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play 1, Disney Desi, Charlotte, Kayla Davis, the girls with sabers, who we talked about earlier, and Dennis Nerds, who I will say, Josh did say that Luke Skywalker was going to appear on the show months ago. So, anyway, thanks for ruining the show, Josh.
Yeah.
Stay in your den, you nerd. That's if you want a Patreon gift, it's an 8x10 of Andrew, and Mr. Rest has 15 of them. And they're all signed by Rob, who is in China right now working the Olympics, which begin Friday.
Awesome.
I never tell me the first one is from executive producer Heidi, with Fennec Shand and Cad Bane appearing in the Bad Batch. Will Kenobi and Andor show be part of the Mandoverse? Will those shows be part of the Mando cinematic universe, or are they going to stay in their own little corner of the galaxy?
I don't know.
I know that's why we're asking the question.
I'm not like against it, but it just feels like too far away. But like, do you think Ming Na is just like, I don't need to work this much?
I think she loves it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 40% on this one because it's just like, how do you do it? Do you like put Cat? Actually, like it's a good idea on their part to put Cad Bane into maybe let's put him in Obi-Wan. No, let's put him in Andor. Because like he's only gonna have possibly one more episode. I don't know if he's gonna be. I would assume he's in, but I don't know. Like he's only got the option of being in a episode and a half. So it's like put him in there and then explain to people that don't know who he is, and you're like, great. So yeah, 40%.
I think Obi-Wan makes sense because Deborah Chow is a part of it. She's a part of Mandalorian season 1. There are rumors that Filoni reworked a lot of those scripts for that show. Andor is, I don't know. That one's one I'm not sure of. I'm gonna go full Brock though. I gotta go full Brock. I want them to be. I mean, it's Star Wars. Theoretically, they should all be in the same universe anyway. But I'm not sure. I think that's it's curious. And I still think Solo, a Star Wars story, the best thing they did, and it didn't turn out, but it was Darth Maul at the end. Not because it was just because of the connective tissue it ended up having. So I'm going to go full Brock. Let us all know what your odds are in the comments below. Our next odd, does Cad Bane work for Kira? Brock, is the Syndicate. What's the Syndicate?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
Syndicate is a collection of gangs, and Crimson Dawn is in the Syndicate.
Sure.
I made that up.
Know. I just feel like the Pikes are just like, no, it's us, just us. We'll hire people, but nah, it's us. We're in charge. But like, could you imagine like somehow roping in Kira through Cad Bane somehow? I'm gonna go 30%. I don't know.
51. Wanted to happen. 51. And our final line today: Star Wars fans as a whole will never be this happy again.
No, I don't like really read people's opinions on stuff like that. Is like the internet has gone crazy for this, right?
Nah, it's kind of split because Star Wars fans are
Yeah,
the worst. But like,
yeah, they're
I
worse.
mean, like the good Star Wars fans that we actually like, will they be this happy again? Did this episode peak happiness and fandom? In the good side of fandom.
I think this is a big deal. I don't know. I guess my opinion will be if like how Reham responds to this because she likes Star Wars, but she doesn't like let Star Wars control her every waking moment. I'm gonna go 100% no. They'll never be happy ever. Burst.
I'm gonna go 71% because I think they will be this happy again. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah.
I think they will be. I think there's going to be something, and we're all going to be very happy.
There was a disturbance in the force, and it was called the sequels.
Oh, top five.
Top five.
Let us know your top five in the comments below or to the side if you're watching live. Top 5 ways, Brock. Top 5 ways the Book of Boba Fett could end. How is this show going to end in a week from today? Next week when we do this show, we're going to be sobbing because it's over. Or maybe it'll be tears of imagine if it ends and this is the Mandalorian will return next week.
That'd be amazing. I think my number 5 is going to be the very end as he wakes up in the Bacta tank and is off in it. In a Bacta dream. Oh my god! That would be like next week on Lost.
My number 5 is just Boba dies. He just died. He gets shot dead. It's like, well, actually, he wins it all. It all goes well. And he's hanging out with him and Fennec's grandkids, and he puts an orange in his mouth, and then he has a heart attack and dies. Godfather, right there.
Godfather.
That's how it's gonna end. That's how it's gonna end.
It's a short book. He dies,
but it won't be an orange. It'll be that fruit that fell on the mayor's guy.
Yeah, Lamora. Yeah. I can't remember. I'm like trying to hear Zeb's voice. I would be so mad.
You want to see me angry? Your number 4.
My number 4 is a wedding. It's a happy ending. Okay, so like you gotta understand Shakespeare. There's drama, there's tragedies, there's comedies. Tragedies end where everyone's dead, and comedies there's like everyone makes it and like they're happy, and there's multiple weddings. Yeah.
My number 4 is just Boba wins the war by riding a Rancor.
Yeah, I'll make that my number. That'll be my number 3. Rancor Nation.
My number 3 is the Pikes are forced out of Tatooine, but the Hutts sit in Nalhada with a new plan that brings on season 2.
My number. They will never be happy. Number 2 for me is. They win on Tatooine, but then it goes out into space, and they're like, "The Pikes have fallen," and someone's like, "What should we do next?" Is like, we wait and then turn, and it's Thanos. What? No, it's Snoke.
It's Snoke.
Oh no, I'll switch that. It ends where it's like Snoke's like good.
Heidi comes in with, I'm thinking that Cad Bane had disdain for the Empire. He mentioned Boba being a killer that worked Empire, and Cad did not seek money by capturing Han, and the Empire strikes back. My number 2 is, and this one, Brock, might seem out of left field, but I think the way the course of the show is going and what we've all hearing is it's Grogu riding a mythosaur. I think Grogu comes back, helps out his old friend riding the mythosaur, because we all know that Grogu's not going to take the lightsaber, but he will win the dark saber in battle and lead the Mandalorians well after this. The genius, Brock, is that he's so damn old right now. He's 50 years old right now. So in 20 years, he'll be 70. So he'll still only be an adolescent. And by the time the sequels are over, he will be old enough to lead Mandalore. So that is how it's going to go. But Grogu is going to do that.
Yeah. Is
that your number one? Is to be continued. That was my number 2. What's your number 1?
My number 1 is an epic battle of some sort. And it ends on like a cliffhanger. I don't know. Like it's like, who are they fighting? Like it's like, who is the bad guy in the Pikes? Like it's just like they all look the same, and none of them have names to my knowledge. So it's like, who are they fighting? Everybody. Like they're fighting oppression. Like what does oppression look like?
My number 1 is Boba Fett leaves Tatooine in the hands of Fennec Shan and returns to Kamino to live out the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, we've seen images of Kamino, but I was like kind of hoping like there'd be a little bit more into that, but I'm not complaining.
That's not where the story went.
Yeah.
Those are our top 5. Let us know what your top 5 are in the comments below or to the side. Maul is the bad guy in the Pikes. Maul's dead. I wonder if they would change that if they could. But anyway, this has been our 240th episode, Brock.
Boom. Amazing.
Can you believe it? 240 of these things.
I cannot.
We'll be back next week to talk about the finale.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. Going to be. I don't know about the finale. My finale might suck, but the podcast is going to be good. Is what I'm saying. 241 is going to be a good. They might also suck. You know what?
Have you listened to our podcast?
It could be no, I haven't. It could be a double suck day.
Yeah.
But if it is, you chose to watch and listen. Like and subscribe.
So this is your fault.
Yeah, this is all your fault. Looking at you, Rez.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for subscribing, for listening, for Patreon, all that stuff. You guys are awesome. Brock, anything else you want to say?
The last High Republic book just came out today, so it's a big Star Wars day. Midnight Horizon. It's the what do you call it? The teen readers. I don't know. Not the young readers, but like the teens, the tweens. YA. Thank you. The YA novel, which will finish this like this first wave of High Republic. So that's pretty cool. I've read everything except for this one, so I am excited to read it. But yeah, I can't wait till next Wednesday.
Me neither. He's Brock. I'm James. Thanks for watching, everyone. And Brock, you were always scum.
Boba Scum.
Scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.